Hi everyone, Calvin Hoy here. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for clicking. I'm back with Matt.
Guys.
Very happy to be with him again. And today, very special day. We're going to be speaking about Zack Snyder's Justice League.
We're gonna get started on this review and breakdown of the Snyder Cut. First thing, Kelvin, what did you think about the movie just from like a 1 to 10 scale?
Oh, well, I just finished watching it less than 24 hours ago, so it's still a bit raw.
Right
If I'm
on.
honest. Um, I would give it. I mean, it's solid. It's a solid film, even though it's just under 4 hours. Um, so it doesn't hit the 4 hour mark actually, but what is it? Return of the King, extended
Right
edition,
on.
which I watched recently actually. Um, I give it an 8 out of 10, possibly an 8 out of 5. Sorry, 8.5 out of 10. Yeah,
Right
so it's
on.
in that range for me. So it's certainly not. I know some people are saying 10 out of 10
Of
or 11
course.
out of 10. Yeah, so it's not there for me. 10 out of 10. Unfortunately, it's okay, but yeah, that's where I am right now. What about you?
Oh, I give it a 9 out of 10. It
Good,
was it
good,
was excellent. I enjoyed it
awesome.
immensely. Yes.
I'm glad you enjoyed.
Right on. All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started? Oh, geez, I knocked on my microphone. Keep doing that.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows, we are going to talk about each individual part as we go through this, and what we thought about it. So the first part is called "Don't Count on It, Batman." Um, so this starts out with the death of Superman, and then it ends with the big Amazon fight with Steppenwolf. But let's start off with the beginning scene. I don't know how you felt about it, but I like what Zack Snyder does with the beginning of his movies. It's kind of like almost the end or a different scene from his last movie. So for this one, it was the death of Superman, and you kind of got to see it through a different perspective, seeing it through the eyes of Wonder Woman and Batman, watching him die from a distance.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I kind of like
So
that a lot. I also like how his scream kind of shout out and resonated through the whole world, and that's what woke up the
yeah.
mother boxes. Um, yeah, what did you think about this part one?
I thought it was very good. I think on Batman traveling to I don't know, this village, I guess,
Yeah, the
and
Icelandic village.
yeah, Icelandic village. Um, I think that's the beginning of his tone, right? Like Zack Snyder's tone and
Mhm.
colors, and like that's what I don't know. I never understood that when people are like, "Oh, there's no color in Zack Snyder's films," right?
Right
Um,
on.
I think there's the Justice's Gray edition, which is black
Mhm.
and white, and so if you compare the two, like obviously there's color. Um, yeah, I thought it was very good. It's very luxurious, if that makes sense. Like it sort of takes its time, and
Yeah.
Batman traveling and going, and it just it shows you that he traveled far. Does that make sense? Like it's sort of,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
different lines like, oh, like there's no power. Like how did he get here, right? And so it shows his resourcefulness, but also like he really wants to meet the Aquaman
Right
and
on.
to gather warriors. So I thought that was good. Like that's what I felt for the whole film. I don't want to jump too much, but like things are explained more, like and scenes breathe more, because I think the Whedon cut, it was like edited within an inch of its life, right? Like everything was just like scenes could barely like finish before they're like cut, right?
So before I move on to the end of this part,
Yeah,
I wanted you mentioned him going to see Aquaman. One thing that I did not like a
yeah,
little bit, and I'm being very nitpicky when I talk about some
sure,
things like
sure.
this, when those women were singing that Icelandic song and they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, the whole time I'm like, ladies, can we wrap up this song because Daddy's got stuff to do. I don't have to sit. I don't want to sit here and listen to your opera, okay? And
Yeah,
like you got the back of the one's head, and she's all smelling the shirt, being all single white female. It was very like that part. I was like, I got to that sometimes a couple of times where I was just like, yo, can we wrap this up? Because I want to go to bed. So
Yeah.
that Icelandic song was, I was like,
Oh, right. What
this is
time?
nice.
What
What
time
was that?
starts?
No, go
What
ahead.
time did you start watching?
Oh, when it dropped. It
Was it
dropped at like
3 a.m.?
3 a.m. So, well, it was a little
Oh,
bit
okay.
after 3 a.m. because I went and got a snack and everything so I could be all
Sure,
like,
sure. Oh, so you
yeah,
watched it one sitting
yeah, the first time,
the
yeah,
first time?
yeah. hmm
Oh, wow. That's
So,
impressive.
the second thing about before I want to talk about, because the Amazon fight, I really want to talk about that one.
Sure, sure.
The second thing I really liked was the line at the end of this. I believe it was at the end of when Batman gets off of the helicopter and he gets on the plane with Alfred,
Sure.
and Alfred says, maybe it was in this next part, but it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna say it now. When he
Sure.
says the line, maybe you're not the best person to bring all these people together. I was like, that's a good point. Batman's kind of angry. Maybe he's not the best person, but at the same time, it's all we got. So that's who's bringing them
Yeah.
together. I really like that a
Yeah.
lot.
And I remember watching an interview with Snyder. This was like at the end of I think press for Batman v Superman, actually, right? Because they were just about to film, and
Okay.
this was after Batman v Superman came out, so everyone knew that Superman died at the end of that film. And he was saying, and people were asking him, well, why did you do that, right? And then he said, because Batman, and this is the argument, right? Like Batman is the more interesting character, so having him collect these heroes is much more interesting. Whereas
I happen to
Superman,
agree with that. I think Batman is a way more
yeah,
interesting character.
yeah, like if Superman came, right? I'm sure Aquaman would give him like give him attitude as well. But like if Superman just flew, like everything would just be like, oh, he flew there, right? And be like, I need you. And then Aquaman would be like, no, right? It'd be very like, I don't know. So yeah, that's why Snyder did that. So that's interesting that you noticed that.
Right on. So now the main thing that I want to talk about this part is the fight with the Amazons. This was not necessarily 100% different from
Mhm.
the Joss cut, but there was more stuff in there
Yes.
and some very, what I felt were very interesting and profound things. And a common theme that I felt through this entire um, movie. By the way, if I mute it, it's because my children are being extra loud
Okay.
right now. They're playing. Um, so one thing I really liked, okay, so it starts off the same way, except the mother box wakes up, except I like that Amazon that went to touch it and then
Yeah.
it broke open. But then when they get in there and they're fighting, which I really liked the line when she was all like, Amazons, show him your fear. And like, we have
Yeah.
no fear. And I'm like, damn straight
Yeah.
they don't. But then one thing that was very different. Oh, well, one thing also that I liked that was a little touch that I liked a lot was when that blue beam was coming out of
Yeah.
the vault. And you got to see the other parts of the island see the blue beam come out of the
Sure.
vault. Like they weren't, not everybody was all, armor ready for this whole thing. You got these women that were doing the thing in the stables.
Right. Like
But
normal life.
then I, yeah. So I liked that when she's all like, ready the hammers, and then they broke the thing down. In the original, well, in the Joss Whedon one, they just sealed him up in that little vault.
Yeah.
And of course he escaped like nobody's
Yeah.
business. So it was like useless. In this one, I really liked that the vault fell into the
Right.
ocean.
Like try to,
I really liked that a
yeah.
lot
Try to,
because yeah, and then Hippolyta has this look of oh shit when he breaks out of the ocean, when he pops up out of the ocean like a Houdini
yeah.
trick. I really liked that because she was all like, oh shit, I thought we
Yeah.
had killed
Yeah.
him. And now she's all like,
Yeah.
crap, now we gotta fight some
Yeah.
more. But what I really the one thing that I felt throughout this entire movie was sacrifice, this theme of
Yes.
sacrifice,
Yeah.
because those Amazons, especially the ones with the hammers, and they like held up the wall and everything, they like knew they were gonna die, and they're like, seal it up and everything. Let's get rid of this guy and
Yeah.
everything. And I really felt that a lot more with this
Yeah.
one than I did before.
Right.
So how did you feel about the whole Amazon fight?
Yeah. And I think that's the thing about this film and extra time, right? So you get those extra lines, you get those extra scenes, those moments where Hippolyta is sort of looking and saying, looking at her general, I guess that the other girl is, I can't remember her name, but saying, oh, like, what do we do, right? And she's like, and the general says, close it, like, do it, right? This
Right.
is Yeah, as you said, this is a sacrifice. Like this is what the oath we swore, right? If anything ever happens, then we have to sacrifice ourselves and protect the world. So you're exactly right. And that, I mean, it just goes to show you, I don't want to, I mean, the Whedon cut is horrible, but I don't want to defend him in any way. And he's a jerk, but,
He is a jerk. We could
but
make a whole video about how
yeah,
crappy a human
I don't
being
want
he
to talk
is.
about, him, but, there was that 2-hour mandate, but it's insane. Like the things that he cuts and replaced with, right?
Oh,
Like,
we're gonna get into
yeah,
some stuff that he cut that I
yeah,
thought was like, why?
yeah.
So
Like, well, like you just said, like, show him your fear, Amazons, and then we have no fear. Like that's what an
yeah, that's a
awesome
great
line.
line. Yeah, it's a
Awesome
great
line,
line.
right? Even
Yeah, but he's a faux feminist, so
yeah, but it's an awesome line, and it shows the Amazons in such a powerful light, and the courage, and that's the difference. It's the courage, right? Because you can see, some of them are a little bit, right? Like, oh crap, right? Like something's coming. But when it's time to fight, it's like we're gonna fight and we're gonna die for this, right? So yeah, the scene is beautiful. I will say I think it's a continuing theme of this film. Like imagine if this, like a 3-hour cut of this film came out. That's what we got originally, right? Zack Snyder's rated R version. Like I think Whedon's version sort of, do you know what I mean? Took out the air a little bit from this version. But I'm glad they did. Like I'm glad Snyder's smart enough to be like, no, it has to be 4 hours, because they saw little bits and pieces of mine, even though he didn't watch it. He knows that, they must have seen a little bit of it already in Whedon's cut, so we have to make it worth it for everyone. So I thought, yeah, it's really well done. It's very, yeah, I mean, it's very Snyder, right? It's more violent, et cetera, but there's a reason for it. And I think maybe it works really well in the comic book films or the superhero films for me, the violence, because I mean, we'll talk about more. I think that's part 6. A little bit of violence there I want to talk about, but it's very, I don't know, the way it's shot, like it's not disgusting or anything. Like the violence makes sense.
right on.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the next part, which the name for that one was The Age of Heroes. And now this one starts off with Steppenwolf right after the Amazon fight, and he arrives at that reactor
Yeah.
in Russia.
Nuclear
And
nuclear
yeah,
power plant.
he's all like, I feel the radiation or the toxicity or whatever he says. I can't remember. Don't quote me on any of these lines because I don't remember exactly what people are saying.
Yeah, he says it's toxic.
Right. And then it ends with the past story of Darkseid coming to Earth to take it over or whatnot.
It's awesome. That was awesome.
Right on, which that's the part I'll probably most talk about in this part, just because that part really. But one thing I did want to say about it was I did like, but I kind of liked it and I kind of didn't like it, was they talked about why Steppenwolf was on Earth and he's there to redeem himself from the eyes of Darkseid. And one thing that I did wish they would have elaborated more on it, because they're like, oh, your betrayal. And I was like, well, what did he do? Because why don't you fill me in on a little something? Because I'm like, okay, he betrayed him, but like, what did he do? Like, and so I wish they would have I mean, I understand why they didn't, but at the same time, I'm all like, yeah, I would have liked to have known that, just a little bit about that.
I think, was it insinuated, Matt, that he tried to take over?
I mean, yes, I'll say yes. But listen, I love me some flashbacks, so I would have enjoyed that.
Oh, yeah, that would have been.
So why don't we go ahead and talk about that history lesson, because that was my favorite part of this part, the history lesson. The rest of it, I'm all like, it's a blur. I kind of remember it, but the history lesson, I remember all of it because it was so. I watched that part. I watched it 3 times total, and then I watched it intermittently, like just parts. I'll fast forward to the parts that So you liked this part, the history lesson?
Yeah, I think so. I think I mean, maybe we can rank the parts later. I don't want
right on. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I don't want to jump ahead, but yeah, this part was, I mean, like I said, everything makes more sense, right? It's like, oh, why is he in Russia, right? Like in the Whedon cut, it's sort of just like, oh, whatever. He's there because it's secluded, except for that poor Russian family. Like I feel so bad for those actors, right? Because like everyone's like, oh,
Right on.
they're horrible or they're useless, which they are. But yeah, I really like the history lesson, and I think in the Whedon cut, sort of like most of it's in there, but this one's better because it is Darkseid. Like he's doing his own dirty work, which is awesome to see. And just when he gets I guess stabbed, not stabbed, what's the word? He gets
in the shoulder.
When
by
the
Ares.
goes, by Ares. I was just like, and the blood's pouring out of him, and that's why he couldn't, fight. He was like, I think he passed out actually.
Yeah, he was like, oh, what happened?
Yeah, I was like, wow. And just that shot from Darkseid, it's been done before, I must say, but it is a great shot. I always like those shots where, the camera's at the back of the character and they're like jumping out of a plane or a ship, whatever he had, and then he lands on the ground and he's like grabbing the soil, right? He's like, oh, such a great shot. And yeah, all the powers, like, very Lord of the Rings, right? Like the Atlanteans, the Amazons, like the men, of course, coming together, the gods, the old gods, coming together and like fighting to protect planet Earth and saying, you're not taking this planet. To Dark is awesome. So I mean, I thought it was really well done.
Right on, yeah.
Really beautiful. That's the thing. It's almost 4 hours long, but I sort of wanted more, if that makes sense. Like
for sure.
Yeah, like more. I don't know. Maybe I'm being greedy, but
right on. We're gonna talk about some like furthering along the story later on. Yeah, no, I loved the history lesson. I liked seeing more, more of the stuff that was involved in it. I really like the old gods, the Greek gods that they have in there. I wish they would have been able to show more of them. Obviously they didn't or whatnot, but I really like that. I hope they bring them back somehow, because this movie overall, it felt like that these heroes of Earth, the Age of Heroes, I felt like that they were the new gods of planet Earth. A lot of people were saying that, but I'm throwing it in there too because I did like it a lot. Yeah, no, I really liked the history lesson. That was my favorite part. I was all like, oh, this is so awesome. And I liked that Darkseid was the bad guy instead of Steppenwolf from this.
Yeah, it showed that he he was doing it himself at one point, right? I know they're saving him for the potential sequel, but it's sort of like, I don't want to bring on Marvel, but it's sort of like Thanos, right? It's sort of like, at one point, like, get off your behind and do it yourself. He's always like, no, let me send some servants to do it. It's like weaker servants, right? So I don't have to try. But yeah, I did like that we saw him actually fight a little bit and get beaten. But yeah, everything, even Artemis, right, with her arrows, that was awesome. It's, yeah, really cool.
Yeah, right on. It was very cool. All right. So then why don't we just move over to part 3. And the name of that one is A Beloved Mother, Beloved Son. Now, this starts off with the Flash and his job interview at the pet store. And then it ends with Steppenwolf at his base talking to Desaad about how he's going to interview the hostages. So starting off with that interview for the job at the pet store and saving Iris West, I really liked some stuff that I liked with that scene. Was I liked it when he was all like, she's like, you got a resume? And he's like from the French resume. And I was like, that's funny. And then this one, okay, so Iris West, the girl that plays Iris West, I did not write her name down and I don't have it here off.
Kersey Clemens.
Yes. Well, she has been cast in the Flash movie.
Finally.
So I say this is that the Flash movie is a sequel. That's my opinion. I think I hope they further on the Zack Snyder verse in the actual movies and not just keep it on HBO.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can talk about that more in the maybe question and answer period. But they are in a strange place with all of that. But I will save that for later.
So One thing that I did think that dragged on a little too long was when he was saving Iris West, when she's like floating out of the car and everything, and he's just like sitting
Yeah,
there, like moving her hair and grabbing a hot dog. The whole time I'm all like, "Yo, come on, you're Flash. Why are you taking your sweet time being all like a creeper on this girl? Okay, stop staring
yeah,
into her. She's stuck in the deadlights, and you're all just like, and everything. Stop that. That crap's
yeah,
weird. Just save her and then get back into the store with no shoes on."
yeah,
Feeding those dogs that hot dog, which I kind of like. He's like, that's why I always carry this meat treat. And I was all like,
yeah,
okay, well, that's weird, but whatever. If I was that interview, I'd be like, you carry around hot dogs in your pocket just for all hot dogs? It's so weird.
yeah.
Um,
I think well, that's what they're going for, right? With Ezra, I think Miller, that casting, it's sort of like instead of this. I don't read the comics. I don't know if you're a big comics guy,
I love
but
comics.
oh, good. Okay, so you can tell me like how Barry Allen is in the comics, but like I've only read like in my life maybe like 2 graphic novels.
Oh, you should
Um,
get on more of them.
yeah, I read Batman Year One.
Oh, so good. So
But
good. What was the
yeah,
second one
it's
that
very
you
good.
read? What was the
I
second comic
read.
you read?
Oh gosh, Batman Year One was the graphic novel, and I read like a couple of Spider-Man comics, and I read a
Gotcha.
couple of Wonder Woman, and I actually like Teen Titans, to be honest. Like I'm a
Yeah,
big Robin slash Nightwing guy, Dick
right on.
Grayson. Um, but yeah, I do like the graphic novels because they're like collected, right? Like comics is sort of like,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't like that. No offense.
Right on. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So one thing also in here was the fight in Atlantis. Well, in that
yeah,
outpost in Atlantis.
yeah,
So I liked this scene. I liked how it was there was a little bit more in it. I also liked how you got to see outside of the outpost. Like one thing I didn't like was the Atlanteans when they were talking underwater. They were like, "Nee, nee, nee, nee." And I was like, what is that? Is that like dolphin
yeah.
speech? Like, what is going on? And then they had to make the bubble to talk. And I'm like, yeah, daddy's not feeling this. And then Amber Heard, for some weird friggin' reason, had a
I was
British
bringing this up.
accent. Like I was
Okay, this is in the Whedon cut. Does she have a British accent?
no, I think they had her record her lines over again.
Yeah.
And
Okay. This is why I think Matt's because I had to confirm it for myself because it was sort of driving me a little insane. Was she has a British accent in Snyder's cut, which is his original vision, which is fine. I think her accent's actually okay. It's pretty good.
oh, you thought so? Because it was driving me mental. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
but what was driving me mental was I watched Aquaman when it came out in theaters, and I was like, she does not have a British accent in that.
no.
So that's why, like I said, we can talk about it later, but this is the Snyderverse. This
Yeah,
is
she made a
like sort of an
choice.
Elseworld story almost. Yeah. But and I just rewatched the Aquaman scene where it's just like Amber Heard's American accent. And she
Mhm.
sounds super American. So
Right.
that was sort of bizarre, I must say.
Very, very.
Yeah.
I
But
personally did not like it. So
yeah, I mean I didn't mind it that she was going for it.
Mhm.
That's sort of like the royal or whatever, like every royal character has like a British accent, right? Um, but yeah, so it's just strange, like there's no continuity between the
Right
films.
on.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. So do you have anything else that you want to say about part 3?
I thought, a
Oh,
lot of people are
keep
praising
going. I'm going.
Cyborg.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So a lot of people are praising Cyborg and his storyline,
Yes.
and it is better. Yeah, it's definitely better here. More fleshed out. I think the performance suffers in Whedon's cut just because of time, and possibly because whatever. I don't want to get into it. Like
He doesn't like colored
Whedon.
people.
Yeah, maybe Whedon
Yeah.
doesn't like colored people. Who
He
knows?
does not like
But
people of color. Yeah, there's
yeah,
we can talk about that at the it wasn't just him. It was also Jeff Johns, but there's a whole saga with
yeah,
that. He doesn't
yeah.
he
But
doesn't like anyone that's not white. So
yeah, I will say it's better. I mean, I did tear up a few times because
oh man, I
father son
cried.
relationships always get me. But so I did think that was better. I liked Ezra's. I think what I just want to say about Miller's performance really quickly is just I think Whedon was like, oh, let's make him sillier and have that very, Buffy dialogue, right? Like that sort of like whatever. Like
Yeah.
why do they call it brunch, right? Like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, I don't go
And then
ahead.
this one, like Snyder's, even with Lex Luthor, which we can talk about later, I know, but just I think Snyder's like, okay, he was like too much maybe in Batman v Superman. So just toning like Luthor down 5%, toning Miller down 5% from Whedon, like a more serious Miller, or a more serious Barry Allen, pardon me, like a smarter Barry Allen. You're like, in this one, he's like, oh yeah, he's smart, like he's a genius. Yeah, he's like awkward, but he's a genius, right?
Right on.
So even that was just so much better, and you can see like Miller's performance, like his acting is actually, he's a very good actor. So I think that was a little bit lost in the Whedon cuts.
Right on. Sorry, I'm just writing some stuff down so I don't forget about it. Okay.
no.
So moving on to the next part 4, which was called Change Machine.
Yeah.
So this one starts with Gordon on the rooftop, and then the heroes that have assembled so far show up, and then it ends with the vision of what's to come with Cyborg seeing the vision of what happens after they put together all of the or after they awaken this mother box.
Right, it's the possible future.
So oh no, I take it back. That's not where it ends. It ends with them bringing the mother box back to the Batcave and them discussing it. But so
that's in part 5. Sorry.
Yeah.
The vision. Yeah.
Oh yeah, part 5. I'm sorry. I'm totally.
No, it's okay.
I wrote down my notes and then I
Yeah.
So okay. So anyway, so they get with the Gordon and everything, and then they go to save the hostages from Star Labs.
Yeah.
And I really liked this scene a lot more. I don't know if some of the lines that were in the Joss cut that were taken out, I was kind of bummed a little bit. Like the save one life and then save another one. I kind of like that line just because I'm like, for a new hero, that makes sense. Okay, if I just save one person, once I'm done with that, I can save another one, kind of thing. So I kind of missed a little bit of those lines, but at the same time,
sure,
it wasn't a deal breaker.
No, you're not the only person. I've heard that as well, like from a original review from 2017. So this was some time ago, but I remember it. I remember someone saying, oh, I like that line. Like I like that conversation between Batman and Flash.
Right on.
I don't disagree. I think it's a decent line or a decent little moment between them. I will say, like, Whedon, maybe because of a lack of time, he didn't do a very good job, and he can't shoot a scene to save his life. Like I could shoot the same quality as he can, and he's been in the business for like 20 years. I mean, like physically, like the camera, like he can't shoot a scene. He's horrible. But his dialogue is okay. Like I've watched Buffy, so, and I like Buffy. So yeah, I mean, I think there are, like, that's the thing, right, about this. It's such a bizarre journey. There are like little things that you might like from Whedon's cut, from his contribution, like that line, like you said. I think his contributions were mostly awful, but like really awful. But yeah, there's like little things like that, right, that you might like. But yeah, the whole scene is just, it's just better. Like the music's better. Like Elfman did, I don't know if we'll talk about music, but Elfman did such a bland, poor job in the original Whedon cut. Like it's such a boring score. And this is like Junkie XL is much more like, not heavy metal, but it's much more energetic. And it's much better. Yeah.
So
sorry, that was
one
a tangent,
thing,
but
what was that?
Sorry, that was a tangent, but
no, totally fine. Totally fine. One thing that we talked about earlier So remember when the Flash brings all those people outside and all that debris is falling, and then he is like going all over the place grabbing
That's a great visual. Yeah.
So that was a scene that when Joss Whedon came in, that entire scene was done. Visual effects wise was done. Everything
Yeah.
was done. And Joss Whedon took it out because he's all like, I don't think people will get it. And I'm all like, you're telling me that you've got a scene that is all the visual effects are done, everything is done, and you're going to just take it out because you don't think that us audience members are smart enough to figure out that he's saving people from falling debris. I'm all like,
And
what's
use
going on?
super speed.
Right, yeah, I'm like,
The
what's
Flash
going?
is
Yeah,
super
what's
speed.
going on here? Like, I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
a genius, but I can. I mean, I figured it
Yeah.
out. So,
Yeah.
and then another thing.
I'm pretty sure like children could figure it out.
Right on.
Like my students could be like, oh yeah, he's fast.
Yeah,
So he
yeah,
can like,
yeah.
zip back and forth.
Right
It's a
on.
great visual though. Yeah, beautiful.
It is, and it kind of. I liked how it kind of sounded like a ping pong, or not a ping pong, but oh, what are those arcade games where it's like ding 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 ding?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I kind of
exactly.
sounded like that.
I
And
will
so
say, yeah, like little things I like, but that's Snyder, right? I mean,
yeah,
all of his films. Like I love Man of Steel. Like 9 out of 10 for me, Man of Steel. Uh, Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition, like 7.5 out of 10 for me, right? So he makes good films, but there's always like little things where you're like, okay, Flash has super speed and he's, pings around and saves all those, or whatever, moves all those rocks, but then he like misses a piece, right? I don't know. It's very like
right on.
he has super.
So real quick, I want to talk about the vision that Cyborg
Sure.
sees. I believe it was in part 4, but I wrote it down, and like the part 5 and part 4 are at the bottom of my page, so it got a little messed up. So if it is
Yeah,
in part 5, people, calm down, okay? We're going to talk about it
yeah,
anyways. So the vision that Cyborg sees that the mother box shows him, I liked it because we got to see a couple things in there that I really, really liked. I liked seeing Wonder Woman's death. I like seeing her on the pyre with the coins, like they would
yeah,
do back in Greek times. The two
yeah.
coins were for the River
Beautiful.
Styx. And then I also like, if you look in that scene, you can see Darkseid watching her burial pyre going off. I also liked seeing how he manipulates Superman with the death of Lois Lane. Like he's like holding her charred skeleton. I liked
Yeah, yeah,
that. And we also got to see a hint, a little taste of the Omega beams from Darkseid when he's
yeah,
killing off Aquaman and the Atlanteans. When it's like, I really like that a lot because I was like, oh, more
yeah,
Omega beams, but there was no more. I was super bummed about that. But I
yeah.
did like that a
But
lot.
it's an awesome scene. Like I was like, oh yeah, no, this is what Snyder wants. Like this is what he wants for the future,
Right
right?
on.
I mean, we can talk about it later, but I do think he sort of. I'm not trying to. How do I say this in a nice way? I don't want to be rude, but he sort
Be
of,
rude. Go ahead. It's okay.
you know, he shot. I mean, he shot his shot a little bit with this. I mean, he used one of his bullets, including it in this film. So I think there is a very. I mean, I don't know if it's 50-50. I don't know what you think, but there is a chance for more from Snyder
Absolutely.
in the future. With the success, right? I heard HBO. I don't know if it's true to be honest, but I think HBO Max maybe there were some issues, technical issues, briefly when the film first came out. And then I think HBO Go in Asia as well. There was some technical issues because
Right
of
on.
all
Yeah,
the
I
people
did hear
watching
about
at the
that.
same
Yeah.
time.
Right on.
Yeah. So some of the servers had a little bit of trouble.
Right on. Okay,
But
so
yeah, I love that scene. And Superman, I think it's in part 5, All the King's Horses. And I think Superman's like, and I just want to hear, I wore this shirt, so I want people to.
right on. Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. And then, so I think Superman's holding the back cowl, and there's that little scene of him, floating and insinuating that he's killed everyone.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and I do like that. Like I said, I'm not a huge comics fan, but I do like that Darkseid would, use Superman as his
Mhm.
ultimate warrior rather than just, oh, let's just kill him, right?
Right
Like
on.
it's very like, it's sort of like, no, let's use him. Like, why kill him, right? So I do like that. But yeah, that whole sequence, you're right. Diana, Arthur, dying, and that's so Snyder. Like he's very, and we can talk about. I know that was one of your questions. The awesome boards,
the storyboards,
sequel
yeah.
boards, yeah, storyboards. I love that stuff. But I do have a very strong opinion on one story element. But yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, I loved it. I think he, may have, I don't want to say wasted. He used, one of his bullets, but it's his choice. And yeah, but the imagery, Diana dying, Arthur dying, like that's so Snyder. Like he doesn't do things easy, if that makes sense. Like that nightmare world where we can talk about it afterwards in part 7 or epilogue. Like his ragtag Justice League is, it's like, well, we're gonna get rid of Diana, we're gonna get rid of Arthur because they're just too powerful, right? Like if they're still around, it's sort of like, it's a much easier fight. And of course,
Right on.
Batman.
Right on. And speaking of that, so for part 5, which you had already mentioned, that it's all the King's Men. So this one, they bring back Superman.
Yeah.
And it ends with them going to Star Labs, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I want to talk about them bringing Superman back to life and their big fight sequence. Well, they brought him back to life in part 4, but then they fight with him in part 5.
Yes. Yeah.
So I liked this fight scene again. One thing that they did again, they took out because it was in the Joss Whedon cut, but it was not in this cut, was the line where he's, holding up Batman by the throat, and he's like, "You won't let me die. You won't let me live. What am I supposed to do?" I can't remember the exact line, but
no, you're right. It's you won't let me live. You won't let me die.
Yeah, and I liked that line also from Joss Whedon's movie. I was kind of bummed that they took it out because I was like, oh, well, kind of that made sense. So I'm like, but at the same time, it wasn't a deal breaker for me.
No, like I said, right? I don't want to keep repeating myself, but Whedon's a good writer. Credit to where credit's due. So yeah, I think that line and probably the Batman Flash conversation are a couple of good or decent additions that he added to his cut. But yeah, and I know, one of my students said they liked that line too. This was like 4 years ago.
Right on.
But I remember him saying, "Oh yeah," when Superman says to Batman, "Tell me, do you bleed?" Right, like sort of making fun of him. But yeah,
right on.
It's what it is, right?
Yeah. And then I also like when they break into Star Labs. I really like this scene a lot. I liked seeing Barry Allen, be all like, I liked when him and Aquaman, when he's putting on the 2 hats, and he's like, all right, hat A, and he's like, definitely not hat A. And then he's like, all right, hat B, and he's like, show me hat A again. I was like, oh, that's so funny. It's so funny. And then I liked when he was
little, because of the time, because we have so much time, there's these little moments, like even things that like would sound like, oh, that's sort of like, what, like why would we see that, or like a waste of time, right? Like Diana and Alfred making tea, and then she says, gauntlets that absorb energy, why don't you make him a lasso in black? Of course, that's like, oh, that's such a good line. It was like Diana has that, like, that personality and that like sense of humor.
Yeah, I did like how he corrected her tea making. I was like, oh, I wonder if that's so British or not. Like the British are all like, Americans, they don't know how to make tea. Or in this one, she's Israeli in real life, but he's like, oh, these people don't know how to make tea. What are they doing?
Exactly.
So they break into Star Labs, and so I liked how Silas, is that his name?
I think it's just
Silas, thank you. I wrote it down weird. My handwriting is atrocious. Anyways, so Silas, he kills himself. He sacrifices himself. And this goes back to what I said earlier. I think the theme in this movie is sacrifice. And he sacrifices himself to mark the mother box.
Yeah.
And I really liked this a lot. I liked seeing all of the Justice Leaguers. This was like the first time you saw them together, kind of like, ready to go and everything. Well, minus Superman, but I really liked that a lot. I really when he dies, I felt it. I was like, oh, that's so sad. I was like, but I liked this part. I really liked the Star Labs
Yeah.
part a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very, like I said, it's rated R, right? I was sort of afraid of the rated R because I thought Snyder would. I haven't. I don't know about you. I don't know if you're a huge Snyder guy, but I haven't watched Watchmen, to be honest. I just watched his superhero films, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and for some reason, I watched Sucker Punch. I don't know why.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, the visuals are good.
I've seen all his films, by the way.
Okay.
Even
How's
that
that?
owl movie. So
How is it? How's the Owl film?
I did not care for it.
Oh, okay. There you go.
But I didn't care for it just because it was, I don't know, it was a little ridiculous to me, but you know, whatever.
Sure,
It was
okay.
I'm pretty sure my kids haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure they'll like it because you know, kids aren't very
Oh,
smart in my opinion. So
yeah.
so
Yeah. Well, they don't know, right?
right
Um.
on.
So yeah, I mean, I think that scene, which Silas dying, and you can see him, you know, his nose bleeding and whatnot, before he explodes. It's just like, yeah, it's really well done. It's very sad. Ray Fisher's acting is great throughout this film, so I think it's a huge showcase for him, and he gets more scenes, of course. So yeah, it's really like justice has been done for everyone, right? Because we see Snyder's vision. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
It's okay.
Matt.
Sorry. I don't have anything else to say about that part. It's just
Okay.
I really like the Star Labs part, but I mean I really don't have anything to elaborate on that. So if you're cool, we can just move over to part
Sure.
6, which is
Yep. Yep.
something darker. Now this one, now I don't know if it was this one because I did not write it in my notes, but so Steppenwolf, this is the big fight
Yep. Yep.
sequence. And so Steppenwolf, he finds out that the anti-life equation, Darkseid has left it on Earth. And
Yeah.
for a comic book reader out there, you know what the anti-life equation is. But for you, I'll tell you, I don't know if you know what it is. But so in the comic books, the anti-life equation is something where you can control everybody pretty much just at your
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
So he found out that he's left it on Earth, which I was kind of like, I don't know how I get that, but that's fine, whatever. It's not one of those things that I am upset. But like I'm like, you should have explained a little bit better because like people like my wife who's a normie, she doesn't know anything about it, so she's all like, "What does that mean?" I was like, "I'll explain it later."
Yeah.
So they have
Well,
their
it is
big fight. What was that?
also it's like, oh, I left it on Earth, and then Steppenwolf finds it. It's like, well, how could you? Oh, well, I guess he passed out, but still, like, how could you forget, right? Like, wouldn't you be like, oh, we lost that battle, but we're gonna recoup, even if it takes a year, 10 years, whatever it is, and we're gonna go back to Earth,
Right.
and kill them, right?
Right
Like, wouldn't
on.
that happen? I don't know. Like, yeah, it's very Snyder, right? It's very like, what?
Yeah, right
Like,
on.
how could you like
So
forget?
right on. So they have their big fight sequence. Barry Allen, he travels back in time. I don't think they explain that very well either. I mean, it doesn't need to be explained very well because it's time travel, but I just felt like they could have done
Yeah,
it a little bit more in explaining it. Also
I think visually though, in terms of music and visuals, I rewatched that scene twice.
mhm.
I mean, I watched it the first time and I rewatched it. It's very good. Like him going back in time and you see like the bricks sort of
Absolutely,
building
the
again.
detail is very, very good.
Everything exploded, right? Including Superman and including Cyborg. Like they died. So him going back in time a minute, saved them. And so I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I also I don't like Ezra Miller's running. Like his
No,
running
no,
is the friggin' like I don't
it's
I mean
bizarre.
if I was Zack Snyder, I'd been like, listen, I feel you. You're trying to make a choice.
Yeah.
But your arms
Look,
look
look, kid.
weird. You're
Yeah,
like his arms are so weird. I'm all like some of
yeah.
the choices that Ezra Miller made, I actually liked. Like when he's doing the meditation before he's getting ready, and he's all like doing this little
Yeah, he's
thing,
like
and when he does
stretching.
the little touchdown thing before he runs, I'm like, I like all that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good right there. But
I do like the touchdown as well. He's like,
yeah,
going like
but
this.
when he's running, I'm all like, and I think I thought I saw he like watched figure skaters or like those swimming people, they acrobatic swimming or whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
I think he said he studied them and everything. And I'm all like, why? They don't run. They
Yeah.
skate and they swim. His arms really bother me. They're all like weird. I don't get it, but whatever. It's fine. It's not a
Well,
deal
we'll
breaker either.
see. Maybe in the Flash film, like Andy Muschietti, I think.
Everybody says
He
machete,
directed.
but I like muschetti because it sounds like spaghetti. I'm
Okay,
like, whatever.
there
Say
you go.
however you want. Somebody will
Yeah, I
correct
think.
us in the comments section.
Yeah, I think Muschietti will be like, "Hey, look,
Yeah.
look, just run more like this, okay? Close your fist and just run
Yeah.
like that,
Like we need
okay?"
to have a chat, okay? A
Yeah,
proper one. Like who
but
taught you how to run?
yeah, I
Like
mean, but that's very like Snyder cast him for a reason, right? I
right
mean, here's
on.
a
Oh, I
unique
definitely
guy.
go ahead. We'll talk
He's
about
a
it when we talk
unique
about the
guy.
characters, but I definitely liked Ezra Miller's Flash in this movie than I did
More.
Joss
Oh
Whedon's. Yeah,
yeah,
it was definitely yeah, way better.
he's
All right.
funnier. He's smarter. He's more competent. He's
Mm-hmm.
quieter actually. Like it's less sort of clown and more sort of serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the last scene in this one is the Lex Luthor meeting with Deathstroke again. And this one was a little bit differently, just in the sense that he tells him who Batman is.
Yep.
I didn't like this part. As a comic book person and watching
Sure.
this movie, I feel like too many people can figure out who Batman is. It's like
Yeah.
they're going to set up the Justice League in Batman's old house, in Bruce Wayne's old
Yeah.
house. And I'm all like, yo, Brucey Bruce. People are going to figure, like, normies are going to figure this out, dude. Like,
Yeah.
for being this rich dude, you're not very smart. Like, get it
Yeah.
together, sister. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say about part 6? The
I
fighting and
think
everything? Did you like,
I watched. Yeah. I watched the whole action sequence twice. I think it's very good. I think there's a good contrast because it's sort of like more normal sky, like black sky, like a dark sky, and then you have the red, right, from the I guess toxicity. Yeah, I can't speak, from the toxic substances, right? Like their guns, the parademons guns and whatever, and the lasers that they have. So I think that's like a better contrast, where I think the Whedon cuts, like, it's just so red, like everything's like super red, right? Which I understand what they're going for. But even Cyborg's line, I like that everything sort of, like you said, some things aren't explained very well, but some things are more explained well. Like the Flash is like, oh, it's toxic there. Like we're gonna grow, like we're gonna be like infected with a toxic toxicity, and Cyborg's like, not anymore. Like he took it all to build his base, so it's like a safe area. Do you know what I mean? Like little things like that. That I like. I think the fight, the whole sequence is good. I really like. Of course, I'm a huge Henry Cavill fan. I love his version of Superman, and he does have like a couple of moments here that are very good. Like his acting, I mean, or better than what I think most people would give him credit for. And I mean, I wish there was more Superman, to be honest. But yeah, there are some issues from the Whedon cut that are still here, sort of, in a way, even though Darkseid is there and it's much more awesome. Like Superman just beats Steppenwolf, right? Like pretty easily. And I know it's a league coming together and whooping him, but yeah, I mean, that was sort of like a minor issue I had with the Whedon cut, and it's still here a little bit, but it's just more violent, right? Like it's a more violent beatdown. And I also say the marketing, I don't know how much you watched. I know last time you said you don't care about spoilers or whatnot.
I don't. I watched everything.
Yeah, so I try not to watch too much. I did a reaction for the Valentine's Day trailer, and I didn't watch the last trailer, which came out I think like 5 days before the film
Yeah,
came
it
out,
came out on
or
that
4 days before.
Sunday or Monday.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, it was crazy, and so I didn't watch that, and I didn't watch like the character trailers. So I try to like keep it, pretty. I wanted to go in like with fresh eyes, or not knowing everything. I do wish there was like one or two more Superman scenes, and like more more flying and whatnot. And I don't know. I still think actually Man of Steel is Snyder's masterpiece. Like that's the most like
Gotcha.
focused film. Like this one has a lot of characters, right? Like Mira, and you have Volko, and you have Lois Lane and Martha and everyone, and Cyborg's parents, and Iris West. So there's a lot in here. So I think like everyone, but I do think like because of the almost 4 hour runtime, everyone gets their moment. So it is in that way, it's better than the Whedon cut, just because he has more time. It has to be almost like, I know some people are like, there's some negative reviews of Snyder's cut, right? Where it's like, oh, it's too long, right? Or whatever. I'm like, it's less than 4 hours actually. And, yeah, it's one sitting, but look, man, there's like, how many? 6. There's 6 4 hour periods in a day. It's not the end of the world. You can handle it.
Right on.
Yeah.
So moving on to part 7, which is the epilogue. Now this one is called A Father Twice Over. Now, I mostly would just want to talk about, because I know Cyborg is a big part of the movie, but we could talk about him later. But the nightmare sequence at the end, I really liked this scene. I thought it was really good. I love the interaction between Batman and Joker. And I'll talk about it in just a minute, but one of the things that I really, really liked was when he's just like, he flips out that card and he's like, here's a truce, Bruce. And he's like, you take this card and we're good to go. But as soon as you rip it up, once it hits the floor, I got it. It's the truce is over. And he's like, you don't need to say a word. You just, when this is gone, it's go time and everything. And I really liked that a lot. I liked that line. I liked that whole interaction.
Yeah.
I really liked it a lot. And then when the Martian Manhunter shows up, I felt like this scene was a little bit not forced, but I kind of felt like it was weird a little bit, because he just shows up at the end. He's all like, hey, I'm ready if you need me. And I'm all like, well, where were you like 20 minutes ago, asshole, when they were fighting? Like you weren't. What were you doing that was so important that you couldn't come help out? Like now you're ready, now that the fight's over with. So I was kind of like a little like annoyed with that, but at the same time, I got it. I get it. But
yeah. And I do think one of the legitimate criticisms, which was sort of saved by, there's a scene, a longer scene, basically, of Clark hugging his mother and Lois in the field, and Martha's very, like, come here, Lois, right? Like you're part of the family, like, so it's sort of redeemed by that. But there is like this really nice scene, like really touching scene between Martha and Lois, in her apartment. And then it's sort of like, oh, it's revealed to be Martian Manhunter. And I have seen a little bit of that online where people are like, oh, I wish it was just Martha, right? Like, I wish it was just a real moment between those two. Yeah, and, like I said, that's very Snyder, right? It's sort of like this is an afterthought. They said, hey, do what you want, you want
right
direct role, you got it. We're not, they didn't pay him a cent. So he's doing all this work, and he didn't get any money from it. So I do think things like that, like, you're correct, it was a little forced, and maybe a little bit random. It's well shot, like everything Snyder does is well shot, like just the lake house and the panning, it's really nicely done. I will say the nightmare sequence, I don't like Jared Leto's laugh. I think it's a little bit too croaky for me. Like I wish it was more like ha, 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 like that, instead of like he's doing like a sort of and then like that, which is a choice, definitely.
How'd that go again?
I think it was like
no, I was just joking. I was just joking.
Yeah. I would like it to be more like like more
right
like
on.
obvious. I do like the card trick. I like the truce, Bruce. I like that he was scared for a moment, because I don't know the full line. Do you know the full line? He says effing kill you. Bruce says I'll effing kill you slowly. to Joker, but I don't know.
I don't remember the line
I
exactly,
Yeah,
like
I
word
have
for
to.
word.
I will say some of the dialogue, and because of that, I know it's a choice that's been made. You know, everyone, the Amazons have basically Gal Gadot's accent, but they're like American actors doing an Israeli accent. Um, so yeah, I think some of like little pieces and of the dialogue, I was like, oh, I didn't what, I didn't hear that. And my volume was like at like 75 out of 100. It was like freaking loud. But yeah, I really like that scene. I do think I like that he's sort of like out of focus, and then when he says, "Why did you send a boy one?" Like blaming Batman, right? Like you made me kill him. Like why did you send a boy to do a man's job? Why did you send a boy Wonder? And then it sort of like focuses in on the Joker or Jared Leto's Joker. I like all of that. I do think it's very like if you know the I know it's a stylistic choice, but also the way it's filmed, it's like whatever, 5 people in a room with green screen, right? Like it's very close up and it's very like, okay, we have like a broken down car here, like a couple of props, but it's very, does that make sense? Like it's sort of like
Hmm.
shot afterward. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
like this was part of the original. So that's why it's like these super close ups of everyone, Amber Heard, Ben Affleck, Jared Leto, and then like maybe a couple of like medium shots. So um I did like it. I do like that world. I mean, we'll talk about it. I think it's in your question period probably, but I don't know if we need a whole film set in the nightmare world. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see what happens. Um, like I said, I think he, you know, used one of his bullets for that already. So it's sort of it might be a bit repetitive if we set like a 3-hour film in there. But yeah, I really liked it. I Yeah, well, you said there were a couple of lines that you liked from Whedon. I will say, I think this is what I heard before. Like there was rumors, right? Like, oh, what was Snyder's original vision? What was Whedon, right? Whedon gave more dialogue to Lois when she returns to the planet. I will say I like that because I think Lois and Clark are a little bit shortchanged in this film just because there's so many characters. So I think in Whedon's cuts, Lois has the ending monologue. So I do like that. Like this is much more like Cyborg and his dad. But I think there's like, to be honest, I think there's a boatload of Cyborg. So I don't know. I didn't think that was necessary, but it has to be paid off, right? With the tape recorder. Like I mean, you could ignore it, but yeah. I mean, I would have actually preferred Lois having that last monologue. That's just me, though. That's just me.